Hello, I'm Liao. Today's video is requested by Brett. Brett has been a very supportive early subscriber to my YouTube channel. Thank you, Brett. So this video is going to be dedicated to you. So Brett asked me about setting up Svelte application in Vite. If you've seen any of my previous video, when I talk about Svelte, I always use the Svelte online repo because it's much easier for me to save it and share the link to you. But there's also this neat little feature on Svelte repo where you can basically click download the Svelte application, which is also, you can have that from running the git command for the Svelte template, right? So all this comes from a Svelte template that has a basic rollup configuration, but this template is no longer maintained because there's much easier way to do it with Vite, where you can start out Vite with a Svelte template. And if you want a full-fledged application, you can consider Svelte Kit. Svelte Kit is coming out very soon. So Brett's question is, if you don't want to use Svelte Kit, how do you use Vite to start a Svelte project instead of the rollup? At first, I think this should be a no-brainer because Vite should have set up everything in its own version of Svelte template. But after I set it up with the Vite's version of Svelte template, I realized that there's slight different from the one that you created with the original Svelte template. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how you can use Vite to set up a Svelte project, and also will focus on the differences between the Vite's version and the original template, and how you can modify the Vite's config if you want to keep the original Svelte template behavior. I believe the out-of-the-box Vite's template is good enough for you, but if you want to revert back to the original behavior, or you want to convert your original project that has set up with the previous Svelte templates and you want to use Vite for it, I hope that this video will shed some light on how you can do that. So let's start. So here I am with the simplest Svelte example, which is the Hello World. I'm going to download this with a zip file and I'm going to unzip it and open it up in my editor. And of course, I need to remember to run npm install to set it up. And in the meantime, I'm going to use Vite to create a Svelte project. So to create any Vite project, you run npm init Vite. And you can pass in any project name. I'm going to call it my Svelte Vite. And here we can choose Svelte as the framework. Svelte with or without TypeScript. I'm going to go with the TypeScript version. And now the code is created. I'm going to run Svelte Vite npm install as well. I'm going to open it up in my editor. So here to start developing, I can run npm run dev. This will start a Vite server. And you can open this page, localhost 3000, which is the default port. Now here, this is the Svelte application. Let me split my screen. So if I try to come over here to the app.svelte and modify it, you realize that as soon as I save, there's hot module reloading to update the content in the browser on the right. So Vite has set up a lot of things out of the box for you. For example, you can import an image like this file. And the default export is the URL of that image that you are trying to import, so you can use it directly with the image tag. You can use TypeScript immediately like this, a equals name equals 1. And then this will complain because a is a string instead of number. I think everything has set up for you, so you don't have to worry anything at all. You just have to develop. When you're done, you can run build to build your code. So here I'm going to kill my dev server and run npm run build. This will build my code into the this folder. And here you see index.html and assets. So the index.html that you see in the this folder already includes the link tag and the script tag for your code. So CSS has been extracted as a separate file, and your JavaScript entry file is built into a bundle over here like this. If you open here, this is the JavaScript bundle, this is a CSS bundle, of course this is the image that you just imported. Everything is added with a hash, and everything has been done for you by Vite. So if this is what you want, then yeah, that's great. So this folder, you can basically upload this folder to any file server and you can serve your application from there. Can I show you quickly? Like HTTP serve. I start a HTTP server in the this folder and I can view my Svelte application in the browser immediately. So it's that simple to set up your Svelte project with Vite. I think most of your use case is handled, so you just have to have fun developing. And let's move on and talk about the differences between the build output from the Vite templates versus the old Svelte template. And to do that, let's hop on to the old Svelte templates project and let's run build. Let's open a terminal and run build, npm run build. This will use rollup to build my code and it will generate in the file in the public folder instead of the this folder, public/build/bundle.js. So here your bundle.js is the bundle. Of course, we forgot to import CSS, so let's do that. So let's add some style to our Svelte component and let's build again. Here you see now we have two files. One is the bundle.js, one is the bundle.css, which contains the CSS styles for you. So okay, immediately you look at the output folder, it is quite different. One is in the public folder, one is in the this folder in Vite. Before we even talk about outputs, let's talk about the inputs. When you build something, you need to know where to start. That is the inputs, right? Usually we call that the entry file, which is the starting point to start your build. For Svelte templates, the starting point is the source main.js. From the template is called source main.js, and you can change that. In the rollup config, you see that the starting point is in this option called this input source main. However, for Vite, the starting point is different. For Vite, the starting point is actually the index.html. This is the starting point. It's not a JavaScript file, it's the HTML file. If you try to change this, say I'm gonna use a different file, a.ts, and just write console log hello, and you change this a.ts, and then you run build, npm run build. If you look at the assets, you realize that there's no more CSS because our a.ts no longer imports any CSS. And you try to format this file, you realize that there's a console log hello. So for Vite, your entry file is the index.html rather than any JavaScript or TypeScript file. So let's revert this. So which means that there's one huge distinction between Vite and rollup. As the first distinction is that Vite tries to build an application for you. So it looks at the HTML as the entry point, and any CSS files that's imported from this HTML, any TypeScript or JavaScript file that's imported from this HTML, any, I think, Svelte component, view component, anything that's imported from this HTML is being treated as the entry point and tries to build the code for you. So over here in this folder, you actually see more than not just assets files that are being generated, you also see the index.html. Here you see that you have the link to the style sheet as well as script tags to include the CSS and JavaScript for your application. So Vite's focus is to build an application that can be deployed to user immediately. If that's your use case, then good for you. However, on the old Svelte template where we use rollup, so rollup is a module bundler. Its job is to take in JavaScript modules and it spits out JavaScript bundles. So over here, the input is JavaScript. And so the template that we have from the old Svelte template, you see that the template itself includes a public folder which includes a index.html. Over here, we hard-coded the build.bundle CSS and build.bundle.javascript. These two files is hard-coded in the public index.html. So if you want to change your bundle name, right, say for example in your rollup, if you want to change your bundle output file name to something else, you have to come over to the index.html to change it to point to the latest file. If you want to add the hash to the output file name, you also have to come over here to the index.html to modify the href or the source attributes to include that hash as well. But in Vite, you don't have to do that. However, if your use case is to build a library built into a file that eventually gets published as a npm package, then it's a different story. In that case, you don't really need anything in the public folder. You don't need the index.html or favicon. What you need is to build into a directory where you can update your package.json to mains entry to point to that file and publish that as a package. So here we can actually change the output folder to say maybe to this folder. Maybe the format is ESM, and let's run npm run build to build it. And immediately you can see we have a this folder. We bundle it to the bundle.js and bundle CSS. So if you take a look at the bundle.js, if you expand this, you realize that in the main.js, if you export defaults this app, then this will be export as the defaults in your bundle.js. So the question now is, how do you do this with Vite? If you take a look at the Vite config, there's a few, is where you can configure your Vite configuration. There's this option where you can configure Vite such a way that it builds as a library. And this option is called lib. Takes in an object. And this object is fairly similar to your options you have in your old Svelte templates with the rollup config. So over here, let me just copy this input and output over here and just do a comparison. So here in Vite's config, so this is the rollup config on the right, and this is the Vite config. So here in the lib mode, this is going to tell Vite to build this project as a library mode. So the first thing you need is the entry file, because library mode no longer care about the index.html. The index.html is not the entry file anymore. So you have to specify your entry file. In this case, let's see, we can specify the main or the app.svelte. It's up to us, right? Main is trying to mount the app components. Maybe if we want just to export builds the app.svelte, then we can specify the entry file as .svelte. So this is very similar to the rollups version of input. Right. Next, we have the name. So name is something, you have it over here, output name. This is actually exactly similar to your rollup output name. It's the same thing. So here, this is necessary if your format is IIFE or UMD. So if I say my format is IIFE, immediately invokes functional expression, then I have to specify a name. So I can specify name exactly like this. So one thing different is, just now you see I type in format, but format is a plural in Vite's config, is formats, so that allows you to build multiple formats. In rollup, if you want to build multiple formats, then you have to create multiple rollup config, or you can export an array in your rollup config to allow you to build different bundle. But for Vite, it's specified as formats, so that you reuse all the rest of the options are the same, but only built into different formats. So here we have almost everything the same, and then the file, you also have to specify this called a file name. You can say bundle.js. Right here, just to make it consistent, we build as ESM, and then file name is bundle.js. So let's try and build this. npm run build. And we finished building, and you can see that in our assets folder, sorry, where are we building? Yep, we are building this folder assets. We have our, how come our file name is not enforced? Interesting. Sorry, it should be a build, inside build option, build lib. So let's come back and let's try a run build again. Now this time around, my this folder will have bundle.js.esm. Well, because formats is an array, then you can have different file names for different formats, right? So when it loops through this format, you appends.esm.js for each format, right? If you want to, since we only have one format, you can actually make it a function that returns this. So this function actually takes in different formats, and you can add the format.js if you like it, something like this. But in our case, we only have one format, so let's just return just return bundle.js. So let's try and build again. Now this time around, we have this bundle.js and the styles. If you look at our bundle.js, you see we export as a ESM module. So this is a ESM module. Right? So we can change this file name, right? But we have the style.css, which is slightly different from here. We have the bundle.css. If you want to make it the same as well, CSS options here, how the name comes about is because we specify in our old Svelte template with bundle.css. So the output file name of the CSS plugin, this plugin is rollup plugin CSS only, outputs a file assets called the bundle.css. But for Vite, I've actually looked through the entirety of the Vite's configuration. There's no way to specify this. And I realized that this is because Vite implements its own plugin. It's not using the rollup plugin CSS only. And the bundle name for CSS is actually hard-coded within the plugin itself. So here I found the CSS bundle name is always style.css. If I search for this, the usage of this. So as you can see over here, this is hard-coded in the plugin itself. There's no way you can change this behavior from any Vite options. So I guess we shall give up. No, we're not going to do that. I'm not going to disappoint you, Brett. I'm going to show you how you can change this. So we're going to write a plugin to change this. Right? So the file is, this is a plugin, Vite's plugins to generate the CSS file. So you can run a plugin after that to basically rename this output file name to our name, any name that we want to, so that we can change that ourselves as well. So sounds good enough. Let's take a look at how we can do that. So let's try write a plugin. Over here in the list of plugins, we have the Svelte plugin for Vite. Here we're going to add our own plugin. Let's give it a name. We're going to call it a custom CSS name. So here we're going to overwrite the generate bundle hook, which is going to be run when we are going to generate the bundle. So how do we know we need to use this hook? Well, this is because when we search for the code in the Vite's CSS plugin, it is the hook that is generating the CSS is using the generate bundle hook. So basically we're going to run on the same hook, but after the Vite's plugin. So here, this hook takes in two things. One is the output options. Another is the bundle itself. So if you try to take a look at the bundle, let's console log bundle over here. Let's try and build this again. You'll see that the bundle is actually an object that contains the file and the content. So this is the JavaScript content, and there's a name of the module. There's a lot of information about it. But we only see bundle.js, we don't see the style.css. That's because our plugin right now is still run before the plugin. By default, it's running before. So here we can change that. We can say enforce to be post. So this enforces our plugin to run after Vite's plugin. And now if you try to run this again, you'll see that now we have, just now this is the bundle, and now we see the style CSS. This is the file name, this is the name. So here we're going to change the file name, right? So we can go here and say bundle style.css. Sorry, style.css.file name equals to bundle.css. As well, we're going to copy this over to the key. I'm going to say bundle.css equals to bundle style CSS, and of course delete this. Right, so let's take a look at our bundle object after we make these changes. Try run build. And fair enough, you can see now is bundle CSS and file name is bundle CSS. Name, but I'm not sure we need to change the name, but we can try that as well. You know how to do that. But if we take a look over here, now this folder contains the bundle CSS and bundle.js. Yay! We managed to change our file name, right? So I think moving forward, you can copy it, you can try to write this. This is very simple, but moving forward, I feel like probably we should raise a issue to Vite to tell them, say if we can't modify the CSS bundle name so that it's not hard-coded. So let's take a look at what else is different or missing. So here we have bundle.js and bundle.js.map, which is a source map for the file that you bundle. We can have that as well. That is quite simple. In the build option, you have this thing called a source map. It goes to true. We set that to true. Default is false. Actually, we also set that in the roller config that's coming out of the box from the Svelte template. It says source map equals true. So you can add that as well. And if you try to run build, now we generate a source map bundle over here as well. How about the favicon? If you don't want this, right, then this is actually anything in the public folder. You just delete it from the public folder and try to run again. Then that is gone. So you get everything exactly the same as the rollup bundle. And that's it for this video. If you like it, give me a huge thumbs up. If you have any questions, feel free to comment in the section below. And hopefully I will make a similar video like this to address your questions. And of course, if you think this video is great, share it to your friends so that you can help them as well. So we shall see you in the next video. Bye bye.